Welcome to this episode of Your Property Business, the video podcasts that help you get the most out of your own property business. One thing that was kind of interesting when over the years we've spoken is this difference between what the property must have to be compliant in terms of the structure and the layout and protection equipment and the management of that property, because there are two different aspects, and I think they need to be treated very much separately. But can you go into that difference between putting fire alarms in, for example, or telling tenants how to act? Is there those two types of advice, aren't there?
Yeah, sorry, I think you lost me a little bit there. So the management of an HMO in terms of how to tell your tenants what is required of them.
What sort of things fall into that kind of category, the management?
So with an HMO, obviously the tenants themselves have got a responsibility for each other to keep one another safe as well. Because everything that one of those tenants does can potentially have an impact on other people. I think the best thing I've seen work in HMOs is notice boards, where information is actually sort of communicated that way. Obviously, regular tenants. I lost it. You have to delete that bit, Chris. Regular managing agents of inspections. Just some, and also obviously the information at the beginning of the tenancy as well, to make sure that they know what they're doing. I see a lot of things that tenants sadly do that they don't realise the impact it has. Things like, and the old classic, wedging fire doors open. That's a big one. And one of the other things I see a lot is unfortunately tenants putting things like cables to routers through their bedroom door, which is stopping the door from closing. Just keeping things on escape routes. They store things on the escape routes which they shouldn't. So it's just about making sure the tenants actually know, in writing and verbally, inspections, just making sure that it's enforced really, that they can't do those things. And also the reporting of any issues. If they do notice something that's not right, they should be reporting it rather than just doing it. I think does that answer your question?
That really does. So what's become clear to me over the years of doing this is that because your house might look the same, but the way that you live in your own house as a family unit, you kind of put things in the understairs cupboard because that's how you do things, and that's where it's quite a good storage space. But your house as a HMO is not the same thing. Fundamentally different. Fundamentally shouldn't have things under the stairs cupboard. Shouldn't have things on the escape route because it's an important escape route out of the building. So it's not the same product. A residential home isn't the same as a HMO, and therefore it has to be treated differently. And I think that's quite a conceptual change, I think, that landlords need to go through when they're offering that product as a HMO. The other thing, the practical point you mentioned there, how do you communicate with tenants? So on the tenant welcome, or the information you give tenants at the start of the tenancy, now you can give them your tenancy agreements and documents in that same pack. But I think we've had to assume that's not read in the depth that it should be read. So we kind of do assume that. But so just a practical point for people listening, what we find really helpful is when we're sat, because you have to meet that person at some stage to give them a key and then check their ID. And that is pretty much the best, the most valuable time you have in front of that person. So we give them sheets of paper to read at that point, to tick the points that we particularly want them to read, to say that they've read them and to sign it. So it slows the whole process down a bit, and it makes the sort of most salient points come out. And then some of the majority of those points are risk assessment points, like don't wedge fire doors open. If you do fear fire alarm or smell gas, get out, raise the alarm. And it's things like, I now have said that, you've ticked to say that you've seen that and you've read that and you signed it. So short of holding hand doing it, that's a practical step that we've taken to make sure that we're as explicit as we can be. So that hopefully that's helpful to some people that, how do you do this? That's how we've decided to do it as a business. Thanks, Matthew.